So this is what a typical permanent outdoor lights installation looks like, and there's no sugarcoating it. During the day, this looks bad, it looks tacky, and it's something that the majority of people will never install in their homes if this is what the end results look like. Now I couldn't be more excited for this video because I was able to get Jakob, or as you might know him as J-Row Inc. from his YouTube channel, who's the #1 Govee permanent outdoor lights installer in the entire country and creator of the permtrack, to show us just how easy it is to do a perfect install, including splices, jumps, and Y-splits that's wife approved, HOA approved, and something that's pretty much invisible during the day and spectacular at night. Now make sure to stay till the very end for all the final results, some commentary, plus a little friendly bet on who's the best disc golfer between the two of us. So the first thing Jakob and I worked on was putting together a plan. You want to figure out where the power will be, and then if needed, map out where it makes sense for jumps and splits to occur. For my house, what we thought was best was to put the start right here and work my way around towards the front. Then once we got to this point, we're going to make the jump up to the second level. We'll work our way going right, and once we get to this point, we'll be doing a Y-split so that our lights on the top continue along the path, but simultaneously, things will jump back down to the bottom level and finish up at the end of the garage. So this is the permtrack that Jakob created in response to the majority of consumers that don't like ugly wires hanging all over their house. It's designed specifically to fit the Govee Permanent Pro Kit and gives people like you and me the ability to create a professional install at the fraction of the price that lighting companies charge. And if you've ever reached out to some of these installation companies to check pricing, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Here I have a strand of the Pro Lights, which is currently Govee's best model. Take the bottom track piece and you can place the puck on top of the pad and then line up another track next to it. And part of the beauty of this product is how simple it actually is. Snap on both covers to completely conceal the cords, and then snap the puck light cover on and you're done. And whether you use screws or a brad nailer, the bottom of the track has a small groove to make sure it's centered, and if you are using screws, it helps hold things in place. And for this install, we ended up using these sheet metal tech screws, which worked perfect on my vinyl soffits. A few other things that you're going to be doing a lot of is making corners. Instead of trying to cut two tracks at a 45-degree angle with the miter saw, the kit comes with 90-degree angle connectors, so all you have to do is line up two pieces and snap the connector in place to make a perfect turn. And of course, when you're at the end of a run, you get a couple end caps for a clean finish. Now if you already have white soffits, you're in luck, but for everyone else, painting these to match is something I highly recommend doing, which we'll be going over later on in the install. Jakob uses these tape circles to cover up the lights to protect them from the paint and then removes them when done. And as always, I'll leave links to everything in the description that we're using in this project to make it easy for you to replicate. We'll also be going over how to install this recessed power/controller housing towards the end of the project in case that's something you're interested in. So we're going to tackle the upper level first, starting in this back corner and working our way out towards the front. And throughout this install, I'll do a mix of close-up footage and time lapses so you can get a nice variety of shots. Now everyone might have a different opinion, but Jake thinks that 4 inches out from the house is in fact the sweet spot, so he always cuts a 4-inch section out from the track and puts some sticky backing on it to use as a guide throughout the entire install. This is actually a really important part to get the same consistent lighting effect, so definitely make sure to use a guide since your eyes can sometimes play tricks on you. As we come to our first corner, this is a great chance to better understand the thought process from someone who does this for a living.
The light doesn't reach to get over here on the face because we don't want it really right on the corner because it's gonna, it kills the continuity.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can have a light like here, and then this one can be over here because you're changing faces of the home. So you're not gonna ever notice that like to the naked eye, like architecturally. But when one comes up a little short like this, what we really need to do is extend it a little bit so we can get it here and get our full dome.
Gotcha. So this brings us to the first splice of the day, which Jakob is more than comfortable doing on the ladder and has all the tools needed to do it on the fly. But to make it easier to follow and understand, let's go over a close-up of what he's doing. In this example that he's faced with, using the normal length of the Govee strand, our puck light is too close to the corner and we want to be able to extend that light further out. What you want to do first is cut the Govee lights in the middle of the strand that you're wanting to extend. Next, you can strip back the outer black layer on each side, which reveals 3 strands, the power, data, and ground. We'll need to strip back all of those and then give them a good twist. We can then take our big roll of extension cable that you can buy on Amazon and cut off the length that we need to add to the run. Strip back the outer sheath where you'll see 3 individual wires. Strip those back and again twist. Now we can connect the cut Govee wire back together by splicing in our added length. This makes it super easy to stay consistent because you can go red to red, yellow to yellow, and then that just leaves blue to black. Once we have them all twisted to their correct color on the one side, these gel-filled connectors are perfect for securing the wires together to help keep out the moisture. Once the wires are in, press down not too hard using a crimping tool and then give a tug to make sure it's in there good. Then do this for the other two wires. Once that side's done, do the exact same thing with the other cut strand of the Govee lights and use the same connectors to secure that side in place. Now we can begin to put things back, but I'll be measuring a new track to take into account the distance that we added. And these are made of rigid PVC and are very difficult to cut with the regular kitchen scissors, so make sure to pick up something like this that'll make cutting super easy. And these tracks were specifically designed with DIYers in mind, giving you plenty of space to hide the splice connectors in the channels regardless of the method you use. So if you wanted to use wire nuts or even wiggle connectors instead of the blue crimps that I'm using, those would also fit in the track and still be able to close. And just like that, we were able to extend the length. Here's the before, and here's the after. Now on the flip side, if you're wanting to shorten the length, there's no need to cut any wires to do that. Simply cut the track down to the size you want, and then fold the cord into whatever length, and then snap the tracks back in place. And another intentional design is for all the clips to overlap the tracks. This means you don't have to be perfect with your cuts, since the putt covers, corner connectors, and end caps will hide gaps caused by you making a cut a little too short or not straight. So going back to the install, everything that I just showed you can absolutely be done on the fly and up on the ladder like Jake's doing right now. And in case you're wondering, we're keeping the old strands up there for now, which we'll pull down at the end. Now one thing that a lot of you guys are going to have to factor in that I don't have to with my house is peaks. For this, you can just cut the tracks at an angle to somewhat get it close to what you have, and then use a putt cover at the high point of the peak like you're seeing here. Then just make sure that the light before and immediately after are positioned at equal distances from the peak for that perfect symmetrical look. From there, it was just a few more corners with a couple more splices to make sure that there were exactly 2 lights on each brick wall and that they were both centered at the same spot so you'd get the full cone effect. So as he's finishing up the top section, if you remember back to the beginning, I mentioned that we'd be doing one Y-split where the lights would continue their run on top, but at the same time there'd be another strand of lights that would start back up on the bottom level and work their way to the end of the garage. To better show you how this is done, let's go back to our previous corner example and I'll use this to demonstrate. I'll first cut off the male end connector on an extra string of lights I have, strip back the outer sheath, and then strip back the 3 wires just like we did previously. Now even though I'm using this connector, you could also use the extra black splice wire that we used to extend the corner, so don't think you have to do it this way. Then I'll be cutting off the blue connectors from one of the splices that we made and re-prepping those wires again. Next, we'll want to combine all 3 red wires together, all 3 yellow wires, as well as the blue and black wires. Once that's complete, we can then crimp on some new blue connectors to keep everything together. So I'll begin to put things back together, including cutting a small notch out of the track so we can get this connector exposed. Now because I'm using an end connector, I could easily attach a new string of lights like I'm doing here, or you could use one of Govee's extension cables if you need to jump a further distance like I have to do in my install. And to explain what a Y-split, or what some call a T-split, is doing is at this point right here, the data is now continuing along its normal path up and around, but the exact same data signal is now being sent in this new direction. So this is exactly what we're doing now, and Jake had a white 12-foot extension cable left over from a different project that'll hide out of sight behind the wood trim as we make the jump from up top to the bottom at the Y-splice junction. And I will make sure to leave a link to the clips that he's using to get these to stay in place. So thankfully the most time-consuming part is now done, and all that's left to do is to finish up the lower sections. And to make the jump from down here to the top part, we used a couple Govee extensions combined with some more splicing cable from Amazon that you've already seen a couple times now. Then the lower level by the garages was the last part that needed to be finished before moving on. It's now time for the best part, which is painting, and color matching is what makes this entire setup become pretty much invisible during the day. You can certainly hand paint this, but a sprayer is for sure the way to go. These smaller ones do have incredible accuracy and a small spray zone, so you can get super precise. As far as strategy, if you haven't done something like this before, definitely use some cardboard to help protect the house. You also pretty much only have to get the front and underneath. Don't worry about getting the back except for around the corners, since that's the only time you would see the backside. This is also the time that you would remove the yellow tape over the lights once you've painted over them. This was for sure my favorite part to watch, seeing how everything was now starting to come together with the end nearly in sight. Now, as he continues to paint, I did want to mention that if you do want full front-to-back coverage of lights on your house, but the 200-foot Govee kit would be too small to go all around, you're going to want to buy 2 separate Govee kits and install one on the front portion of your house like we're doing on mine, and then the second kit would be installed in the back area. After all the painting was done, it was time for power. Ironically, I just did a review of the new Eufy NVR security system, and I ran PoE wires in my house from the outside. And to do that, I drilled a hole in my siding to get in, which is no different than what Comcast does to bring in cable internet to the house. We'll be using that same spot, but making the opening larger to fit the box that you can get as an add-on. We'll first feed the connector through the opening, and then to the outside, where it'll get plugged into the beginning of the run. This 3D printed box is designed to perfectly house the controller and power supply brick, and you're able to run the extra wires through the top and bottom slots. And I won't be screwing this in quite yet to the wall since I still need to refeed my PoE wires in from the security cameras, but this should give you a good idea of what it can look like when installed. Now, when talking with Jakob, it really is crazy how big the demand is for the permtrack kit, with the biggest challenge being just trying to keep up with all the orders, especially during the time leading up to the holidays. But he's hopeful, now that all production is in the US, that he'll be able to keep up and not have to push out shipping dates too far. And then on the outside, you can connect the wire to the beginning of the lights, and then we can use the same clear clips that we did in the front to secure the cord to the side of the house. If you wanted this run to disappear, you would then paint it the same color as the siding. And once I have my security camera wires fed through again, you'll want to hit this hole with some silicone to keep the moisture and bugs out, just like he's doing at the top here, where a small notch was cut out of an end cap to feed the wire in. And I will say, for a lot of installs, you will be running the power through the attic, but in my situation, the attic wasn't accessible from where we wanted to start the run, which is why we went this route. And then all that's left to do is paint the beginning track and we're officially done. Now, before the final results and the other fun stuff I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I was finally able to get my hands on the new Govee up-down wall lights that just launched, so I had to swap the original kit for these new ones, and you'll see here shortly, but they were definitely worth the wait. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you enjoy the final results, the extra commentary, and our fun game of disc golf. Now, one thing I appreciate what you've done is, I know you have an idea that pops in your head, and at the very beginning, you know, you install these lights and it looks great at night like you mentioned, but it's just the wires, everything's ugly, and you're like, there's got to be a better way. Everyone's probably had that same thought and same idea. Maybe just walk me through a little bit of the thought process of going from 3-4 years ago, this idea, to kind of where you're at now.
Really, it's you know, seeing a market opportunity, seeing a need to really meet the expectation of my customers. You know, as a small to medium contractor who's getting requests to install Govee lights, how can I give them the best experience, the best product, all of that stuff? And so when I saw that there's a need to really help make the Govee outdoor lights a little more permanent and a little more architecturally pleasing, I just took action on it, and that was a big deal. You know, try, fail, and I just kept going until I finally got the right mix of the product that works good for whether you're a DIYer or whether you're a pro installer starting an installation business, or whether you're a service business that wants to just add Govee lights install to your list of services. This product can work for all of those, and you know, that's my story. Okay, so for our next video, closest to the basket, the other person has to travel to them.
Deal.
All right.
All in one. Here we go. There we go.
Uh-oh.
Oh! Almost got a hole in one.
Man!
Home field advantage, it's alright.
Okay. No whammies, no whammies, no whammies, no whammies. Get in the hole. Don't be too good for your home.
Oh, that's pretty good too.
Oh! Oh!
Oh. That's actually crazy.
Okay, I had Mr. Beast. Who's closer?
No!
Oh!
You got me by about 3 feet. Mine bounced in the wrong
Yeah.
direction. I think I was technically closer.
All right.
We'll have to watch replay.
All right, you're coming to Austin.
Austin, here I come.